Now, next group are working together collectively. It might be slightly different from what you can see on your program, but we will now welcome to speak to Co-Design for Community Surveillance and Te Tiriti-guided National DNA Reference Library, everyone coming together. Kāwai Kaimai iwi reps, Te Poari Newton, Stevee Raureti, Brayden Hohaia, Serene Ratu, and working together as well with Manpreet Dhami, tēnā koutou katoa, nau mai, piki mai.
Nongataa te maunga, nongataa te awa, parawai me tarukinga o ku marae. Tura te iwi te aroa te waka. Ko te poari ahau. Kia ora tātou. Now, I would just like to introduce to you our kaupapa. Kaimai kāponga. The last time we spoke was at Te Tira Whakamātakitaki conference in New Plymouth. We introduced ourselves there, and it started with a bug. It started with a bug. Our journey started around the need for capability and capacity for our people of Nongataha. Tura Ngāti Tanako, we feed the prisons, we feed the streets of homeless and unwellness. So we had to do something because our ngāhere was also dying. And that created Kaimai Kāponga. Kaimai Kāponga was actually started with the Jobs for Nature funding, which comes to an end this year. Our aim was to study the insects and the bugs to ascertain the wellness of the forest. We had a few jibes about that. People were sort of saying it's a waste of time. But we found this gentleman, Koro Bob. His eyes are stuck to that microscope. This entomologist has been the main reason we're here today. Through his guidance, he comes over from Tauranga to come and meet with us in Nongataha every week. And he studies with one of our rangatahi, who is our first intern in science. This rangatahi is now at Canterbury University. This is less than 12 months, guys. It's just amazing. The boy, I would never have thought would have left Nongataha. He has whakapapa, te tura, Ngāti Whakaue, Ngā Raranui, and Ngāti Rangawewehi that flows through his bloodline. On the right-hand side there, this system here, because I want to move into telling you how we actually started the pest eradication process, which was the main reason we got together. This is a trapping system, a standard trapping system that you would implement if you were first getting into pest eradication. You can't see any whenua, but every trapping system you see requires the whenua under that trap to be cut. So you can place it in the ngāhere to capture the pests. This journey has been really amazing because we've innovated in the short time that we've been in this space, from buying warehouse traps online to creating a new trapping way. And we found that in a little place called Wairoa. We had whānau, the Lewis whānau have been trapping intergenerational for many, many years. And their mātauranga mana is amazing. And we've been inviting them up. Gabriel hit, they had no work, and they reached out to us. So we invited them up, started another journey in the use of traps. What this trapping system has done if we had that map there, we now only go around the outside and we put a line down the centre. We focus very heavily on pre-feed. So all those little critters get to know where McDonald's are. And they will head in that direction because that food is readily available. And once we implement the trapping system, which is just a leg hold trap, you can go and buy that at any shop, combined with a bait station, with double tap toxin, which is the lowest risk toxin you can use. They work hand in hand. That's called a 100% trapping system, which is called Te Kupinga, named after Te Kupinga or Taramainuku, the net of the head star. Where Taramainuku casts his net, we would fix and repair. So this trapping system has made amazing inroads for us in terms of capacity. So we employed 10 FTEs instantly. We had to train them for 6 months, which was undertaken through a Taranaki land-based training system, which involved us to help design that. Because most of our employees, when we pick them from the ground up, not many of them finish school, not many of them have work. 1 out of the 10 we employed actually completed secondary school. They're still there with us today. We may have gotten rid of a couple because they don't have any ears, but we have the right to do that as uncles and aunties. But we've had others that have also moved on to other things. We now have a professional soldier that's gone to that. We don't stop them, we get them going, and we can replace them quite easily because we have that quantum of people that need that support. The trapping system has really innovated our ability to cover hectareage or area. We put out an ambitious target. We want to trap and repair and look after 150,000 hectares of land in our little rohe. Now you might come to me and say, Doc doesn't have that much land in there. No, we actually do trapping for farmers also, because reinfestation is actually the problem. You can trap till the cows come home, but I'll tell you what, 1 month later, you'll have another set to trap out. So reinfestation is important. Buy-in from the neighbour and the farmer is important. Buy-in from the community is important. Buy-in from the children is more important, because they're going to spread that message for us going forward. I suppose I just want to touch quickly on what have we done within our community. Craig McFadden, who is the principal of Whanganui-a-Tara School, which has a roll of 420, came up with this brilliant idea last year and wanted to imprint something onto the uniform that reflected the journey we've been on. So we designed a shoulder tamoko for their shirt, and he provided every student with free uniform this year. Whanganui-a-Tara Primary. Mamaku Primary is doing the same. These are our 2 mainstream schools that we have within our rohe. So I've just been given the message now, because I was just warming up. However, I just want to say, we received a phone call from a gentleman from IUC, Canterbury University, Steve Morrison, inquiring about our bug, who we now named Ia, I-A, Ia. It's never had a name. It was always known as the H bug. So Ia is a he, she bug. Ka pai? So the journey is, Steve Morrison introduced us to Manpreet, to Amy from Wilderlab, and now the next journey starts. Kia ora tātou.
Tēnā tātou e te whare i te tuatahi. I'd like you to take a deep breath in, haki roto. Breathe in, hold it. Now I'd like you to hold it for the next 50 years or 2 generations, because that's how long my tupuna were waiting in bated breath to see the fruition of some of this stuff that's coming now. So I'm only a vessel for my tupuna aspirations and only a voice for my future mokopuna, who I also love, Stacey, but am yet to know. So along the life cycle of Kāwai Kaimai, this is a partnership in correlation with Kaimai Kaponga. Now, Kāwai Kaimai was derived from the phrase Kāwai Hikinga, a line of genealogy as a whole, so whakapapa, which is in essence DNA. When I was approached by Steve and by my uncle to actually come on board this project and become like a liaison/consultant, I don't see any of that. I wake up each day and ask myself what Stacey does, what kind of tupuna do I want to be today? Because I want stories to be told about me too. So the importance to me was the fact that DNA came from the ground up, and we started with the trapping of the invertebrates. So your health of your whenua is determined by the health of the forest floor. So we started from the ground up because the health of the whenua determines also the health of your iwi, hapori, hapu, mana whenua that surround that area as well. We care about and love everyone and everything, and like Tame said yesterday, he Māori te era, the Māori of life is what we actually are here to represent. So this follows a life cycle which covered a few principles: wānanga whakapapa, wānanga rangahau, wānanga heimahi, manakitanga, mana ki te tangata, mana whenua, and mana motuhake. So we developed a clear understanding of our unique ancestral whakapapa. It was to hope to restore, regenerate, reconnect, all of that stuff through the themes of building that momentum, because those are the same gaps that we're seeing within our people. We need the reconnection with our people. We need the reconnection, the regather, the reset, the restoration, in the hopes that we'll regenerate as well. We don't want to stop at just containing the issues. We'd actually like to regenerate. So this will restore our pā, tura, ngāti te ngākau, our capacity and capability building. Capacity and capability is huge to my uncle. As you can see, I'm probably one of the younger generation that he'll have up here. Not usually a consultant, not usually an advisor, never a cultural advisor. However, I am a teacher, and he said, hey, look, here's your capacity and capability building, lead a project. So here we are today. We hope to result in mana motuhake. So can you give me all a mana motuhake wave? Hand up in the air, that right one, please. Let's say mana motuhake. Oh, like you actually want it. Mana motuhake. Now you're there. We're lucky we're before lunch because we're about to go over time. But that is the project, scanning, barcoding invertebrates, in the hope that we could work as a partnership as iwi Māori, as tangata tiriti, to come together and create this tiriti principle-based reference library. It's a safe space to be. I'll tell you about that later.
Kia ora koutou, called Brayden Hohaia, and I'm one of the 5 interns, a part of Kāwai Kaimai, and I'll just say it's a pleasure working with these guys, because not only have they helped us interns develop our environmental management skills, such as trapping, sampling, and all that type of good stuff, they've also helped me personally with my Te Ao Māori journey, being able to identify all the cultural practices and tikanga Māori, and just with all the sites that we've been to, having that cultural significance, following the mana whenua guidance that they've been able to provide with me. I've been hoping to see if I can implement this type of stuff with my own iwi tapuika and get our own projects on the road. So yeah, our study design. Our sites are all in the Ngongotaha forests, 3 of which are regenerative forests that have been heavily impacted by logging in past times, and 3 of which, the red dots, these are less impacted by logging, but they've still got more stable climate and conditions, all that type of good stuff. This is where we were sampling all of our invertebrates, which is important to sample because invertebrates are basically our baseline for biodiversity. Not only are they bioindicators that determine the health of the forest, whatever's in there, they also serve as nutrient cyclers and just moving energy up the food chain as food. Moving on, trapping. We sorted 3 types of traps within our sites, that including pitfall traps, malaise traps, and fly intercept traps. It's good to have a variety of traps out in the forest because just having different types of traps specialised in different types of invertebrates, we can then get a more wide variety of invertebrates. For example, on the left, we've got the malaise trap. They're good for sorting out all the low-flying insects that might happen to fly in that localized area, or the pitfall traps that are good for the more terrestrial and ground-dwelling insects. Once we got all our samples sorted, we went back to the lab did our own sorting, classifying them to orders. And while we might find some cool stuff like that pseudo-scorpion, for then, we were mainly focusing on beetles. Yep. Once we were able to identify all the beetle specimens that we were able to collect, we were then able to get through the process of extracting their little DNA from various body parts, so that we were able to send them off to Christchurch, where their DNA would then be processed through PCR, which then their data could be used for barcoding and hopefully future metabarcoding as well, for when we want larger samples and just making life easier for when we want to find invertebrates out in the forest. Now I'll hand the time over to the other intern, Serene, for explaining our data.
Kia ora tātou, ko Serene Ratu tōku ingoa, he uri ahau no nai tūhoi no te Waimanakaku. Just because of time, we're going to get to the important data. This is our morphological data we actually received just last night at like midnight. So daily we face the challenge in identifying the majority of our species due to the absence of a reference library. Having a reference library for our nānara is crucial as it aids in accurate species identification, taxonomy, research, education. And as we look at this graph across from our wheel, the darker dots on this actually indicate that the reference library we possess contains limited information regarding the identity of the species from which we extracted DNA from, which means these species in this red box have never been identified at all. I've also highlighted our data to make it more readable. So the data in the blue square shows species that have a 100% pairwise identity, so they can be identified quite thoroughly. And then the data in the green square can be identified to the genus. And then there's the data in the red box, which are predominantly unknown at a species level. DNA extractions are tractable. We were taught how to do this in about a week, and I'm no invertebrate expert. I studied product design at UC. So I think that being a kaitiaki of the land was the only prerequisite I needed for this kaupapa. Engari, it isn't about the data, it's about the message. So heading it to Stevie.
Thank you. Tēnā tātou. So part of my role in this project was to ensure the engagement of our people, our community, our hapu, our iwi, and not only that, but also our kura, which was quite timely because I have some good links in our kura system in Rotorua. It's a pretty small network. So we were able to cover a broad scope of school engagement sessions. We did that in a traditional science fair type exposure level. It was low pressure to facilitate for our new interns. It was also a low pressure environment to garner some interests from students. But it was also the most robust way we could get a broad scope of information across to all of them in 45-minute blocks. We decided to host these as a science fair without moving. So there was mana in coming to our whenua to receive this information. We weren't going out to the community to sell a product. They wanted it, they came to us, they got the exposure, they got the hook. Our only goal there was to hook people in. We managed through the week to see nearly 5,000 people through those doors. So that was in the space of a weekend. My hair was falling out worse than the Wellington wind, you wouldn't believe it. But we managed to see nearly 5,000 people. The last day through, we provided 500 lunches, kai all day, all of the incentives, all the vouchers I heard yesterday. It was a little bit of that give and take, get the buy-in and then come back later if you like. However, on the last day, that was open to the whole community. So hosted in our big community hall, it was a free day. Everybody could come along and have a really good go at some of these, not only ecological activities, science activities, but also iwi mahi. So we had rongoa stations, we had poi, we had kākahu, we had dyes, we had taonga. So to see the merging of this partnership and the togetherness, we've now adopted Manpreet and Steve. So you could see it in its depth and its authenticity, that it was a safe space to be. Iwi mā, it's a safe space to be. It's quantitative research, it's not qualitative. So we're not asking your intellectual property any sorts of sensitive questions when garnering for a referencing library. Just hold that in your mind, and if you want to talk to me about that later, because I must say that was part of my hesitance. How do I engage with tangata tiriti and future-proof this? And my cultural advisor that I am teeing up with, so I'm so sorry, Manpreet, but he uri tēnā no tētai atu ahi. So it was always a bit of a hard bridge to gap. But what we realized, guys, there's a really good 3-step recipe. Cultural awareness lies only with you as mana whenua. It's your job to create that awareness for those people. It's their job to be responsive. So it is. We have that safety. We have the awareness. It's all our voice. It's their job to be responsive to what we say in order for us all to reach cultural competency. Not just competency, but safety. And this has been a really safe space to sit in for the last 6 months. We can talk more about that. I'll give you my number. But engari, following the community engagement, iwi engagement, hapori engagement, we needed to start looking at what it really meant to create this DNA referencing library from a cultural perspective. Not only a cultural perspective, but a tiriti principle-based guided framework. So I'm only going to share with you one clause that must stay in your mind. And I'm a cultural advisor now, so if you try to contradict that, I'll come for you. Now, the only feedback and feed forward that I could say was kāwanatanga, tino rangatiratanga, and ōritetanga are the driving principles when engaging as Kāwai Kaimai. Because that should be the start, right? If it's going to be a tiriti-based referencing library, let's start there with the principles that we've got half of outside this door right now. You know that? So yes, it was really important to not only highlight the actual principles, but to come up with these clauses that could keep us safe through the process of engaging as a partnership with all of these people. So you can take a little look at that. Māori perspective, worldview, tikanga and kawa must be consulted across all data gathering, analysing, evaluating and reporting. Kāwai Kaimai coordinators, facilitators and advisors act in a culturally appropriate manner at all times when engaging in the project. It says your paragraph text down there. I mustn't have edited the text box. Sorry about that. That's not a clause. I'll get my legal advisor to look over that later. Appropriate storage. So this is where the questions are arising, right? Where is our stuff going? Where's our DNA going? Where are our tūpāpaku going, pia? Because the importance for us was going along the journey with our invertebrates. I would say, hey, we stay together with our bodies for the whole duration of a tangihanga. You want to take them somewhere, they're not flying in the post. We come with you and you receive us as a people. So those sorts of things are really important for us to remain balanced. What is really important in acting these partnerships is not to be compromised, and I'm not a very compromising person, so I'm probably the hardest one to work with in the team. However, I never wanted to compromise what my tupuna karaua had ever stated for their aspirations, because he's not here right now to see the 18,000 hectares of native forest that he saved. He didn't know what it was going to be doing later. He just knew that nobody was cutting it down. So we're here to share that voice. Professional development experiences for students that immerse them into the unique cultural aspects, needs and aspirations of Māori people. Broaden that scope, build that capacity and capability, but it's also about small exposures, broad exposures, thinking about what values you can instill into whoever you're bringing through the door, what characteristics, how you can activate the critical thinking, perhaps. So I'd love to bring in Manpreet now because she's my best friend. And she gave us her time.
Hello. Tātoko everything you say, but I think the final very little bit that I would like to add to the fantastic korero you've already presented is that it was really the in-person engagement that we did that got us this far. It was unlocking that DNA technology. We went to the marae, we did a sequencing, and we had this absolutely beautiful, go on, put it on. This technology began for us, and we're just really grateful that we were welcomed with such open arms in this kainga, and we still continue to feel welcome, and I think I'm going to just wrap up with that.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Give us a big mana motuhake wave if you got anything we missed. See me later. 0225217139. No.
Kia ora.
Tēnā koutou katoa, e aku huanga, e aku epepe, e aku ewewe tēnei ka mihi. And congratulations to Manpreet and Steve for being adopted by one of the best looking and yet most humble iwi in the land. Yes. Looking forward to you getting your red and blacks, your outfits, just to confirm all of that. And just enjoying what you were talking about, Stevie, in terms of where you say cultural appropriateness, competency, safety, responsiveness. I think all of us can show cultural intelligence, and then we are good at working together. And we are hooning into the last of our sessions before lunchtime.